Welcome to NTD News Today. Here are today's top stories. Stocks rally and crude oil prices drop after President Trump postpones potential strikes on Iranian power plants, citing constructive talks. 2 people were killed after an Air Canada flight collided with a fire truck at LaGuardia Airport in New York City. What we know about the incident so far. ICE agents begin deploying to airports today to help with TSA staffing shortages. It comes as lawmakers are still not close to reaching a deal to fund the DHS. The Supreme Court is hearing an appeal over a state law on counting ballots received after Election Day. The case comes amid a continuing nationwide debate over mail-in voting.
This is NTD News Today, live from our global headquarters in New York City.
Today is Monday, March 23rd. I'm Kevin Hogan. Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy is heading to LaGuardia Airport in New York City after a deadly collision last night. 2 pilots were killed after an Air Canada flight struck a fire truck. Here's a clip of the air traffic control audio recording the moments after the collision.
Frontier 4195 to stop there, please. Stop. Yeah, 646, I see you collide with vehicle here, just hold position. I know you can't move. The vehicles are responding to you now.
That wasn't good to watch.
Yeah, I know I was here. I tried to reach out to my staff, and we were dealing with an emergency earlier. I messed up.
No, man, you did the best you could.
The flight from Montreal, Canada rammed into the fire truck shortly after landing at around 11:40 p.m. Eastern Time. The plane carried 72 passengers and 4 crew members on board. 41 people were injured. 32 have since been discharged from hospitals. Authorities say some are seriously injured. The 2 people in the fire truck survived with non-life-threatening injuries. A passenger on board the Air Canada flight describes the collision.
We went down for a regular landing. We came in pretty hard. We immediately hit something, and it was just chaos in there. About 5 seconds later, we had come to a stop, but in that short period, I mean, everybody was hunkered down and everybody was screaming. Pretty quickly, we didn't have any directions because the pilot's cabin had been kind of destroyed. So somebody said, let's get the emergency exit and get the door in. Let's all jump out, and that's exactly what we did.
The collision comes as air traffic control remains understaffed. LaGuardia Airport is temporarily closed. Authorities say it won't reopen until at least 2 p.m. Eastern Time today. The FAA and the NTSB say they will investigate the collision. Now, this is a developing story, and we'll keep you updated with the latest information. President Trump announcing the U.S. and Iran have reached major points of agreement after talks this weekend. He's also pushing back on Iran's claim that talks aren't happening, attributing it to confusion within the destabilized Iranian regime.
We have had very, very strong talks. We'll see where they lead. We have major points of agreement. I would say almost all points of agreement. Perhaps that hasn't been conveyed. The communication, as you know, has been blown to pieces. They're unable to talk to each other. But we've had very strong talks. Mr. Witkoff and Mr. Kushner had them. They went, I would say, perfectly. I would say that if they carry through with that, it'll end that problem, that conflict.
He says the administration will speak with Iran's leadership later today, while stressing there's no guarantee for a deal. Earlier, President Trump announced he would hold off strikes against Iran's energy sites for 5 days, after threatening to attack if Tehran did not allow the full opening of the Strait of Hormuz. In other news, the president this morning praising ICE agents for stepping up amid a shortage of TSA workers. He's also doubling down on his support for ICE agents wearing masks during law enforcement, though saying they don't need masks at airports.
I want to thank ICE because they stepped in so strongly. They'll do great. And if that's not enough, I'll bring in the National Guard. And I didn't think the masks were appropriate. I put out a statement and I asked them, would it be possible to take off the mask? Because they should wear a mask when they're dealing with the murderers and the thugs let into our country.
ICE agents were deployed to some airports today as the partial government shutdown has caused long lines amid a shortage of TSA workers. The president saying it was his idea to send ICE agents to airports to help.
On Capitol Hill, senators working over the weekend but failed to reach a deal to end the partial government shutdown. White House officials and Senate Democrats have exchanged offers over the past several days.
The opportunity to actually drive this to a conclusion is there. You have to have, obviously, to negotiate a deal, you got to have two sides at the table. The White House is there, Senate Republicans are there. The question is, are Senate Democrats going to take yes for an answer?
The White House has expressed openness to almost all of Democrats' demands on changes to ICE policy, but sticking points remain. Democrats insist that agents remove masks and acquire judicial warrants for enforcement. Republicans say this inhibits immigration enforcement and puts agents at risk. As the negotiations appear unyielding, the president now changing the dynamics. He's expressing openness to Democrats' demand to reduce ICE funding in exchange for the votes to pass the Save America Act. In a Sunday Post writing, "I don't think we should make any deal unless Democrats agree to pass the Save America Act. All paper ballots, no men and women's sports, and no transgender mutilation of our precious children. Lump everything together as one and vote." Meanwhile, the president has directed Border Czar Tom Homan to send ICE agents to airports to help with staffing shortages. Agents will be deployed today, starting at Atlanta's Hartsfield-Jackson International Airport. They'll help with crowd control and helping to get wait times down.
ICE has been at airports across the country for a long time. It's just expanding those things. Look, it does. How much of a plan does it mean to guard an exit to make sure no one comes through that exit? I mean, we're talking about security options, and these officers are well trained in security, and they're well trained in identification.
Homan said agents would not be screening people through security, but will help where their expertise will suffice. Democrats not welcoming the news.
Instead of sending ICE agents to harass travelers at airports, why doesn't Trump get his act together and agree to pay the TSA workers and get the Senate Republicans to do so?
Senate Democrats tried again over the weekend to separate TSA funding from the broader DHS funding. Republicans reject this approach. Senate Leader John Thune saying the move is an attempt to bypass Senate rules. Reporting from Washington, D.C., Melina Weisskopf, NTD News.
As mentioned, President Trump is sending ICE agents to assist the TSA at airports, and the Senate has advanced the nomination of Mark Wayne Mullen for DHS Secretary. To discuss all of this, we invite Jessica Vaughn, the Director of Policy Studies at the Center for Immigration Studies. Hi, Jessica. That's 4 hours reportedly of these lines for international travelers, 3 hours for domestic. Will this help shorten lines at the airport?
I think it could, yes, because the TSA officers at the airport rotate among various different stations, some of which do not involve running the screening equipment. It's sitting at the exit of the secure area to make sure people don't come in that way, telling people, what they need to take out of their bags, whether they need to take out their laptop, et cetera, dump your water here. And keeping the line running smoothly. And that would allow TSA to put its experienced and trained screeners in that vital role. One way ICE officers could be really helpful is in looking at the identification of travelers, because, of course, they're already trained in that as part of immigration enforcement. So I think it could really help. It's no substitute for having TSA fully staffed and getting paid, but I think this is a reasonable interim help.
And Trump says that he's okay with ICE agents wearing masks when they're out removing hardened criminal immigrants, but he's asking them not to wear masks at airports. Does that help build public trust and create an atmosphere of safety?
Well, I don't think the masks are probably necessary if they're doing airport duty, although there was an incident in the San Francisco airport today already with them making an immigration arrest of a woman and people who were in the airport starting to film it and sort of question their authority and asking for their badge number and trying to harass ICE while it was doing its job. So it's possible that they might need to start masking in areas where agitators are trying to dox them and might represent a threat to the officers or their families. But for now, that doesn't seem to be a big problem. I think mostly travelers are going to be glad to see them and feel safer as a result of them being in the airports.
And President Trump put Border Czar Tom Homan in charge. Homan said ICE agents won't be looking at x-rays because they're not trained in that, something you're talking about, nor will they help with security screening, but they can help with security. So what can they do? Can you elaborate more to free up more of these TSA agents for these specialized roles that they have?
Sure. Well, they can keep the line orderly and make sure people are not being disruptive. They can tell people what to do to get ready for the ID check and for the security screening. They can sit at the area. There's always a TSA officer at the area where you exit the secure zone when you've arrived at your destination. And they put someone there to prevent people from getting into the secure area by coming in through the outdoor. And certainly ICE officers would be prepared to do that. I think they can also help with identifying travelers, picking out imposters who are using fake ID out of the line and dealing with that, helping authenticate travelers' documents. These are all things that ICE agents are already trained to do, even more so than TSA officers. So considering all the problems we have with non-citizens using fake IDs and other ruses to try to get through travel screening, that could be really helpful. And, honestly, airports are where a lot of illegal aliens and fugitives and visa overstayers can be found because they're trying to travel on false or stolen identities. And that, I think, enhances security as well.
And another part of this story is that Senator Markwayne Mullin could be nominated this week to replace DHS Secretary Kristi Noem. If confirmed, how would his approach differ from hers?
Well, I think that if he's confirmed, Senator Mullin would probably be less in the public eye and more behind the scenes trying to get things done. By his own statements during his confirmation hearings. As he said, he's seeking to not have DHS on the front pages of our news media reports every single day. I think he's just going to try to work behind the scenes more to keep these agencies that are part of DHS working together, and he can be potentially very helpful in working with senators on possible legislative initiatives to improve our immigration enforcement and immigration security. So, we'll have to see, but his style seems very different from Kristi Noem, who has been in that job. And that seems to be part of the reason why he was chosen for this important job.
And Mullin says that he would try to empower people with his approach. Very interesting what you're saying. President Trump says Democrats are withholding essential funding for DHS that was already approved, while Democrats are seeking changes involving body cameras on those ICE agents and changes that when they have operations in sensitive areas like churches. Negotiations are ongoing. Do you see a pathway forward?
Well, that is going to depend on the Senate Democrats, who are the ones holding things up. They made an initial list of 10 demands in order to fund the Department of Homeland Security. Many of them were very unreasonable demands that would bring immigration enforcement nearly to a halt in practice. The Trump administration has come back and said, look, we can do body cameras. We can do better identification of ICE agents while they're working in the field. And we're willing to guarantee that certain types of enforcement are not going to happen in sensitive areas. And we're willing to concede that we can get judicial warrants in certain scenarios when they need to enter the dwelling of a fugitive. These are all pretty significant concessions. The Democrats have not yet responded to that. But it does seem that the Democrats are concerned about how this is playing out, because now they're trying to separate out TSA funding from the rest of DHS and say, okay, we see we have to fund that. I think they feel like they're on the ropes a little bit, but they're going to have to actually make a good faith response to the concessions that the Trump administration has offered them. And I think they will be able to save face if they come to the table and say yes to this agreement that's been proposed by the White House now.
Tough situation. So many TSA agents calling in sick or even just completely leaving the job. Jessica Vaughn, thanks for coming on.
Thank you.
Coming up, the Supreme Court is hearing an appeal over a state law counting ballots received after Election Day. The case comes amid a continuing nationwide debate over mail-in voting. And Senate Republicans pressing ahead with a marathon debate over the Trump-backed Save America Act. That's despite Democrats moving to block parts of it over the weekend. Hi again. A major development in the Iran war, President Trump ordering a 5-day delay to military strikes on Iranian power plants. In a message posted on Truth Social this morning, the president saying, quote, "I am pleased to report that the United States of America and the country of Iran have had, over the last 2 days, very good and productive conversations regarding a complete and total resolution of our hostilities in the Middle East." The president adding, based on the tenor and tone of these in-depth, detailed, and constructive conversations, which will continue throughout the week, I have instructed the Department of War to postpone any and all military strikes against Iranian power plants and energy infrastructure for a 5-day period, subject to the success of the ongoing meetings and discussions. Here's President Trump talking to reporters earlier.
We have had very, very strong talks. We'll see where they lead. We have major points of agreement. I would say almost all points of agreement. We'll at some point very, very soon meet. We're doing a 5-day period. We'll see how that goes. And if it goes well, we're going to end up with settling this. Otherwise, we'll just keep bombing our little hearts out. So tomorrow morning sometime, their time, we were expected to blow up their largest electric generating plants that cost over $10 billion to build. It's a very good one. There was no dearth of money. And one shot, it's gone. It collapses. Why would they want that? So they called. I didn't call. They called. They want to make a deal. And we are very willing to make a deal. It's got to be a good deal. And it's got to be no more wars, no more nuclear weapons. They're not going to have nuclear weapons anymore. They're agreeing to that. Any of that stuff, there's no deal.
Oil prices dropping sharply and stocks surging almost instantly following the president's new announcement. U.S. West Texas Intermediate falling nearly 9% to below $90 per barrel. Benchmark Brent crude down almost 10% to about $100. Prices earlier dropped as much as 14% to a session low of $96. And the main U.S. stock indexes soaring at the open. The Dow Jones jumping over 800 points, or 1.8%. And S&P 500 and NASDAQ both up over 1.5%. A suspected anti-Semitic attack in the UK. Police say 4 ambulances belonging to a Jewish charity were set on fire overnight in North London. The vehicles were part of a volunteer emergency response group serving the local Jewish community. The fire brigade says it sent 40 firefighters to battle the blaze in the early morning hours. No injuries were reported, but explosions from gas cylinders on the vehicles damaged nearby homes and forced evacuations. Police say they are searching for 3 suspects. British police say the attack is not currently being treated as terrorism, but the investigation will be led by counterterrorism officers. Police are aware of an online claim of responsibility for the attack, but they say the claim has not been verified. Prime Minister Keir Starmer condemned the incident, calling it a deeply shocking anti-Semitic arson attack. Anti-Semitic incidences have been on the rise in the UK since the Israel-Hamas conflict started in 2023. Last week, 2 men in London were charged with carrying out hostile surveillance of the Jewish community on behalf of Iran. The nationwide debate over mail-in voting continues. The Supreme Court is hearing Mississippi's appeal after a lower court struck down its law counting ballots received after Election Day. Mississippi state law counts mail-in ballots received within a 5-day grace period after Election Day. The law was enacted in July 2020 during the COVID-19 pandemic amid widespread lockdowns. The Republican National Committee, the state's Republican Party, and the state's Libertarian Party sued. 18 states accepted mail ballots received after Election Day if they bear a postmark made on or before Election Day. Proponents say grace periods are necessary to maximize participation in the democratic process. Opponents argue that allowing ballots to be accepted after Election Day invites fraud and erodes trust in elections. The Supreme Court has rejected an appeal from an independent journalist who argued she was wrongly arrested. She was originally charged with 2 felony counts of misuse of information. In 2017, Priscilla Villarreal published the identities of suicide and car crash victims on Facebook in 2017. She obtained the non-public information by speaking to a police officer in Loretto. Texas state law makes it a crime to solicit non-public information from a government official with the intent to obtain a benefit. Prosecutors alleged she used the information to garner more followers on Facebook. After a state judge dismissed the case, she sued the officials for damages. However, an appellate court ruled that the officials Villarreal had sued had legal immunity. Meanwhile, the justices also rejected an appeal from longtime Texas death row inmate Rodney Reed. Reed was seeking to test crime scene evidence that he says would exonerate him in the 1996 murder for which he was convicted. President Trump's pick to head the Department of Homeland Security is one step closer to confirmation. This comes after the Senate voted 54-37 yesterday to advance Senator Markwayne Mullin's nomination, with 2 Democrats joining Republicans to move it forward. A final confirmation vote is expected early this week. Mullen has served in the Senate since 2023. Before that, he spent a decade in the House representing Oklahoma. Mullen gained support from Democratic Senator John Fetterman, who cast a key vote in committee. Senator Rand Paul voted no. President Trump earlier this month announcing Mullen would replace outgoing DHS Secretary Kristi Noem. Mullen says his leadership will be different and that his focus will be on empowering people. The Senate's marathon debate over the Save America Act is grinding into a second week, with Democrats signaling again they have votes to block the final passage. Over the weekend, Democrats voted down a Republican amendment that would have barred men from competing in women's sports. That's one of several cultural-related provisions the president has demanded in the package. At its core, the Save America Act would tighten voter registration rules by requiring proof of citizenship to register to vote and a photo ID when casting votes, a top priority for President Trump. Here's Senate Majority Leader John Thune speaking over the weekend.
Mr. President, when it comes to showing photo ID at the polls, not only do most Americans support it, 36 states already require it. Red states, blue states, swing states.
And Republicans have scheduled days of late-night sessions to keep the spotlight on voting rules and men competing in women's sports. The goal is to put Democrats on defense heading into the midterms, even if the bill itself stalls under the Senate's 60-vote threshold. Next, 2 lawmakers are calling on Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick to enforce export controls over advanced AI chips. This comes after 3 individuals were charged last week for conspiring to smuggle advanced NVIDIA chips to China. According to the DOJ indictment, the 3 suspects conspired to sell $2.5 billion worth of servers to a company in Southeast Asia, and some were repackaged and shipped to China. Those servers included NVIDIA's B200 and H200 GPUs, which are banned from sale to China without a license. 1 U.S. citizen and 2 Taiwanese citizens were allegedly involved in the conspiracy. 2 of the defendants were arrested, while 1 remains at large. The U.S. citizen, named Wally Liao, was a co-founder of server maker Supermicro. The company said Liao has resigned from its board of directors and was put on leave. On the following day, Senator Tom Cotton and Congressman Bill Huizenga sent a letter to Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick expressing their concern over the security of advanced U.S. chips. They are calling on the Commerce Department to protect key U.S. intellectual property from Communist China's reach. We're cutting in as President Trump is attending a roundtable discussion on the Memphis Safe Task Force in Memphis, Tennessee. Tuning into that now.
There ain't no doubt I love this land. God bless the USA. From the lakes of Minnesota to the hills of Tennessee, across the plains of from sea to shining sea, from Detroit down to Houston and New York to LA, where there's pride in every American heart, and it's time we stand and say that I'm proud to be an American, where at least I know I'm free, and I won't forget the men who died, who gave that right to me, and I gladly stand up next to you and defend her still today, 'cause there ain't no doubt I love this land. God bless the USA. And I'm proud to be an American, where at least I know I'm free, and I won't forget the men who died, who gave that right to me, and I gladly stand up next to you and defend her still today, 'cause there ain't no doubt I love this land. God bless the
Thank you. Wow, that was a nice place with the best sound system. I don't know who did. Sounds like the finest opera hall in anywhere in the world. Let's come back here more often. So often you have sound systems that aren't the greatest. And there's nothing worse, making a speech when nobody can hear you. This is beautiful and it's a great place. And Memphis has to like me, because I have a lot of friends here, and they were not happy a year ago, 2 years ago, 4 years ago, and now they said, we can't believe what's happened in terms of crime, in terms of what's gone on, and the job that these people and some of the great people, many of the great people in the audience have done. And that's why I'm here today. In fact, we were going to cancel because we have a couple of events going on, as you probably noticed. So they said, oh, we'll cancel Memphis. I said, we're not canceling Memphis for anything. We're not canceling. We're not going to cancel Memphis, but we do have some big things happening, and very positive, I have to say. So before getting to our important discussion this morning, let me provide a brief update on Operation Epic Fury, which is a very good name, as it turns out. That was the name. They showed me 20 names. Sir, what name would you like? I didn't like any of them. And then I get toward the end, I said, you got to be kidding. What? Operation Epic Fury. I love that name. And it's very appropriate for what's taken place, if you know, in Iran, because we knocked out their Navy, we knocked out their Air Force, we knocked out their anti-aircraft, we knocked out everything. And we did it with fury, actually. As I announced earlier, based on preliminary conversations between the United States and Iran over the past 2 days, I've directed the Department of War to temporarily postpone planned strikes against major energy and electricity targets in Iran. They have very, very big, new, actually, and very expensive, billions of dollars it costs to build them. One missile, one of our powerful ones, and it comes down to the ground like it was made out of dust. But to determine whether a broader agreement can be reached, we've had very good discussions, very, very good discussions. And you have to understand, I know my whole life has been a negotiation, but with Iran, we've been negotiating for a long time. And this time, they mean business. And it's only because of the great job that our military did is the reason they mean business. They want to settle, and we're going to get it done, I hope. So hopefully this will be possible, but no matter what, we'll ensure that Iran never obtains a nuclear weapon. They can't have a nuclear weapon. They would have had one if we allowed the Obama deal to stand. That was the Iran nuclear deal, they called it. They would have had one. Marcia 3. Well, I tell you what, Martha, we would have nuclear weapons up there when, would you say, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, or 4 years ago? We would have been in a position that nobody wants to be in. We won't allow ourselves to be in that position. Over the past 3 weeks, the United States military and our partners have been decimating Iran's military capabilities with overwhelming firepower, skill, lethality, and force, and we're destroying their ballistic missiles and drones programs with launchers down by more than 90%. We're hitting their launchers at a level that nobody even thought of before, 90%. They can't launch them, and they don't have very many of them, because most of them have been annihilated. But we've annihilated their defense industrial base, eliminating their Navy. We had 158 ships are down. I said to my people, why didn't you capture the ship? I said, were they good or not? They said, they were great, sir. So why didn't you capture it? We could have used them. They said, it's more fun to put them at the bottom of the sea. But they're not there anymore. So we eliminated their Navy, Pete, right? And that's gone. We eliminated their Air Force. We eliminated all of their air defense, everything. We eliminated everything there is to eliminate, and we eliminated them. We eliminated their leaders. We had the first set of leaders. They're gone. Then they met, 88 people met. And it's sad. I mean, it's sad they couldn't have made a deal. We could have made a deal with them a long time ago. Then the second set, 88 people met to pick a new leader, and they're now extinguished. And then they're meeting again, but now nobody wants to be the leader. It's one of the few political jobs that nobody wants anywhere in the world. Nobody wants it. It's a very dangerous job. My job is dangerous too, but their job is worse. In other words, we're systematically dismantling the regime's ability to threaten America. They're not threatening us anymore. As Commander-in-Chief, it's my sacred responsibility to protect our country from all threats. For decades, Iran refused every opportunity to renounce its nuclear ambitions, and in recent months, its own negotiators bragged to our representatives about having enough material to make nuclear weapons. And that was supposed to deter me, but it didn't deter. It made me more anxious, and it just made it much more important. This mission that we're all on together was much more important, and we did it quicker. Iran's missile capabilities were also growing so fast that it would soon have become virtually impossible to stop them. Once they have a missile, once they have what they were building was incredible. And you got a little glimpse of it by the fact that when they came out, they started shooting all of their neighbors. Their neighbors weren't fighting with them. They were getting along okay with their neighbors. And I was surprised. Everybody was surprised. And it actually worked in reverse because their neighbors then turned against them. Now Iran has one more opportunity to end its threats to America and our allies, and we hope they take it. Either way, America and the entire world will soon be much safer and will be a much more secure planet. In addition to all of this, we're working on so many different things. You know, our economy was fantastic. We had a Dow at 50,000. They say it couldn't happen in 4 years. It wouldn't happen during my term. But if I got anywhere close, it would be a great success. Well, in my first year, we hit 50,000. And with the S&P, they said, even more difficult. They said it would be impossible to hit 7,000 on the S&P, and we hit that in our first term. And then, unfortunately, I called Pete, I called General Kane, I called a lot of our great people. We have great people, and I said, let's talk. We got a problem in the Middle East. We have a country known as Iran that for 47 years has been just a purveyor of terror, and they're very close to having a nuclear weapon. We can keep going and get that 50,000 up to 55 and 60 is no end, or we can take a stop and make a little journey into the Middle East and eliminate a big problem. And Pete, I think you were the first one to speak up, and you said, let's do it, because you can't let them have a nuclear weapon. So we are now having really good discussions. They started last night, a little bit, the night before that, and I think they're very good. They want peace. They've agreed they will not have a nuclear weapon, et cetera, et cetera. But we'll see. You have to get it done. But I would say there's a very good chance. And it began when I said that I won't be. We were planning tomorrow on shooting down some of their power plants, and we're going to hold that up. Hopefully we won't have to do it, and hopefully we can make a deal that's good for all of us, including the Middle Eastern allies that have been very good to us, including Israel, that's been a great partner in this fight. They've really been a good partner in the fight. They fought hard. But we'll see what happens. I think there's a very good chance we're going to end up in a deal. And so we're giving it 5 days, and then we're going to see where that takes us. And I would say at the end of this period, I think it could very well end up being a very good deal for everybody, as good as if we went all the way and just literally annihilated the place, which if we don't have to do that, that would be a good thing, not a bad thing. In addition, after the appalling lines and massive disruptions at major airports nationwide last weekend, I am again demanding that Democrats in Congress immediately end their disgraceful shutdown of the Department of Homeland Security and restore the full funding for airport security and the TSA. They are holding it up because they want to take care of illegal immigrants coming into our country. They want to take care of criminals that are in sanctuary cities. They want to take care of transgender for everybody, literally the mutilization of our children, men in women's sports. But what they don't want to do is give us anything to do with citizenship for voting or voter ID. Can you imagine? We're the only country that doesn't do voter ID. Every country does voter ID. Brought to my attention today that we're the only country that does mail-in voting. Mail-in voting means mail-in cheating. I call it mail-in cheating. And we got to do something about it all, and it's part of Homeland Security. And I'm suggesting strongly to the Republican Party, don't make any deal on anything. The most important thing we can have is what's called the Save America Act. Don't make any deal on anything unless you include voter ID, and you have to be a citizen to vote. You have to show citizenship to vote. Very easy to do. It's very insulting when they say people can't do it because they don't know how to do it. Anybody that can't do it, I think it's a very insulting thing to say. The Democrats are fully to blame with the struggle of the great American public is going through at the airports. They're going through a big struggle right now, and we just put ICE in charge, and they're helping TSA, the agents, and they're working together so far very well. I actually suggested that in the airports they take off their masks, and they did that. In the airports, I'm a big believer in the mask because we have, Biden allowed hundreds of thousands of killers into our country. We're rapidly getting them out, by the way. But they would go after these people if they knew exactly who they were. But in the airports, it's different. I didn't love the look in the airport as you get off the plane. So I made a request and they agreed to it. So they're not going to be doing that. We would also bring out, if we don't have enough, we will bring out the National Guard and where we need it to help out at the airports. But we're not going to let this happen. It's extortion by the Democrats. They're holding up money that's already been approved, and now they're willing to go $5 billion reduction in ICE. in order to get the approval on a deal that they approved, the great big beautiful deal, which is the biggest tax cut in history, the biggest regulation cut in history. They want to basically renegotiate a deal that they already approved. And they're doing it largely for a criminal element. So also the Democrats are putting our country at great risk during this period of time, a period that they call a war. They call it a war. We call it a military operation. Their leaders during this time are, as you want to say, they're in a never land. Schumer is gone. I mean, he's a Palestinian. He should be fighting on the side of Palestine. He's actually become a Palestinian leader. I don't know. I've never seen a man change so much. He used to be pro-Israel. Now he's pro-Palestine. I've never seen anything like it. And, he's worried he's going to lose his next election, which it only depends if anybody runs against him. If anybody runs against him, he'll lose. But he's gone very wacky and very dangerous for our country. But we want all of those things. We have to have them. We want voter ID. We want proof of citizenship as part of our funding. We want to merge them so that we can get the great, big, beautiful bill in action, and we can get the America and Save America. They called it the SAVE Act, but nobody knew what the SAVE Act was. So I said, you have to call it, under any circumstances, you have to call it the Save America Act, because everybody knows what that is. So they want funding taken away from the ICE patriots who are responsible for getting rid of the criminals that Sleepy Joe Biden, the worst president in the history of our country, and his gang of thugs in the White House. You talk about weaponization. They weaponize everybody. When when Pam looks at somebody, oh, it's weaponization. They've indicted me. What they've done to me and everybody else, it's a disgrace. They're the weaponizers, and what they've done to people, can never let that happen again. We can never let them get away with it again. They are the greatest weaponizers. Fortunately, it didn't work, because here I am with you. So it didn't work out too well. Didn't work out too well. But they want to have people come into our country. And so many of these people are murderers. They're drug dealers. They're the worst criminals anywhere in the world. They want them in our country. They don't want them to come out. They make it almost impossible, but we get them out anyway. They should have never been allowed to enter our sacred ground. These people should have never. They came from all over the world. They came from all over. They came from the Congo in Africa. They came from all over South America, Asia, everywhere. And they were from jails and mental institutions. They were drug dealers. They were murderers. 11,888 murderers. In any event, the Democrats are being blamed by the American people for the catastrophe going on right now at our airports and at other points of transportation and beyond. And we want the public to know we're not going to let them out of this trap that they created for themselves. And I'm suggesting very strongly that the Republicans, in going for the Save America Act, that you weld it into exactly this, because voter ID is part of Homeland Security. Think of it. We're talking about two separate items, but they're really the same. Voter ID is part of Homeland Security. And citizenship, proof of citizenship, is part of Homeland Security. So I think it should be welded in. I think it should be together. You should vote together, because the public has not liked what they've done at the airports. And they've done it, and the public understands it. They've gotten wise to them. Republicans do not settle with Democrats and let them out of this hole that they've buried themselves in. You have to take the votes in the Senate to approve. You need votes to approve. We have to get Democrat votes. And at a certain point, if you could get rid of the filibuster, it would be great. It would be great. Get rid of the filibuster and get it all done. So we'll get it done. We want another thing. We can, or we don't have to, add those other items. And by the way, they say they're 80-20 items. They're not 80-20. They're 99-1. Men playing in women's sports is a 99-1. You look at transgender mutilization of our children That's a 99-1, and we have that in the bill too. So they won't sign it, then let the people reject them. And what we have to do is we have to win the midterms. This is the most important election because all of the gains that we've made, we built the greatest economy, the greatest military. I built the military in my first term, and we built the greatest military in the world. We're showing it now with Venezuela, with Iran. Everybody knows we have the greatest, most powerful military in the world. And we're in a position that we haven't seen. We're respected. You know, our country now is respected all over the world. A year and a half ago, we were a laughingstock. We were a laughingstock. The King of Saudi Arabia told me a year and a half ago, he said, President, I can't believe what's happened to America. 1 year ago, you were a laughingstock. Nobody thought you could ever survive. Now you're the hottest country. Use that expression. He said, now you're the hottest country anywhere in the world. And we are now. Congratulations, because we're all partners in this deal. You're the hottest country anywhere in the world. It's really amazing. So I congratulate you. It's a great feeling because we were laughed at for 4 years with this guy that should have never been president. So I'm tying Homeland Security into voter identification with picture and proof of citizenship in order to vote. And those two items are the most important thing having to do with Homeland Security. So it should be part of the Homeland Security bill. And I'm requesting that the Republican senators do that immediately. You don't have to take a fast vote. Don't worry about Easter going home. In fact, make this one for Jesus, okay? Make this one for Jesus. That's what I tell them. That would be a damn good thing. The most important part of Homeland Security is voter ID and proof of citizenship. Nobody can vote on Homeland Security without voter ID or proof of citizenship. And you can't have Homeland Security without voter ID or proof of citizenship. So we're tying them together. So now, if you don't mind, let's get to the reason why I'm in Memphis and why you're doing so well. Because Fred Smith, everybody know Fred Smith? He was a friend of mine, and he created from a sort of failed report at like Harvard or whatever. He did a business report, a concept he had, that was his thesis, a concept he had to build a company, and it was FedEx. So he gave this thing where he takes packages, he delivers them. Who the heck knows what he put down? Bottom line is they gave him a lousy mark. I don't know if they passed him or not, but they didn't give him a good mark. They say, this is the most ridiculous business plan we've ever seen. Fred, go back to the drawing board and try something else, because this won't work. Well, he decided to go for it, and he built FedEx, and it's an amazing story. And he was a very good friend of mine. But he would tell me that he didn't know what to do about Memphis. It was so dangerous that they would have a board meeting, and the board members, they were demanded that they could not walk 1 block to their hotel. You know the hotel I'm talking about. It was so dangerous. And now they tell me this is like an entirely different place. It's like Washington, D.C. In Washington, D.C., we had the same thing, and now it's amazing. It's such an honor to. If only more governors, your governor called, and he said, we love it. Your mayor has been terrific. Your mayor has been terrific. But look at the results that you've got. Look at the results. And everybody should do it. You know, if I were Chicago, Pritzker, he's a failed governor. All he has to do is say, President, we're having a problem in Chicago. Could you come in and fix it? We'd have it fixed in 2 months. It would be good. It would be good in 2 months. It would be great in 4 months. You'd have almost no crime. But he can't do it. And it just keeps going the same way. So that's the reason I'm here, to tell you how well you've done, how well we've done. I mean, I just came in and people greeted me, sir, thank you very much for what you've done. I said, oh, where are you from? Memphis. What did I do? You stopped crime. And your sheriffs are so thankful. And, oh, you haven't seen it yet. You know, we've just been here a short while. In another 2 or 3 months, you're going to have, like, no crime. And, you know, we take these criminals. Is that our handsome senator down there, Bill? Is that our handsome senator, Bill? You got both of them down, but you're going to have a new governor here soon, I guess, huh? Going to have a very new governor. Would you two stand up as senators? Please stand up. Two of the greatest people. Two of the greatest people. They never let me down, you know? Some let me down. They never let me down. Thank you. Last September, my administration launched the initiative modeled on D.C. Safe Task Force in our nation's capital. One of the most amazing things, I mean, I hate to say it, now I can say it, but our nation's capital was one of the most dangerous places on earth. People were being killed. They'd go in from Iowa, they'd go from Indiana to see the Washington Monument, and their parents would get a phone call they'd been killed. And it was happening a lot. It was really bad. And like this, actually, yours was at a level higher, to be honest with you. It was really bad. But it was happening a lot. And now you walk down Washington, it's like everybody that sees me in Washington, we've been doing that another couple of months longer. Everybody sees me in Washington, they say, "Thank you, sir. Thank you." And I immediately know what. You know, they could thank me for a lot of things. I said, are they thanking me for the economy? I know immediately. We have people working in the White House, young women. They walk, I would say normally beautiful young women. Ever since I got elected, I don't like to say that, because usually when you say a beautiful woman, isn't she beautiful? That's the end of your political career. So I never say that. But young women coming up to me and they're saying, "Sir, thank you so much." I know immediately what they're talking about. I say, how big a difference is it? They say, we walk to work. We were afraid to walk into an Uber. We were afraid to walk into a car. The car would be, it didn't matter. The car was being robbed when we were in the car. And it was much more than being robbed. Being robbed was the least of it. And we took out over 3,000 people. And you know, there's an expression that 90% of the crime is caused by 2% of the population. And when you hear that, you realize why we can do such a good job. We moved 3,000 people out, permanently out of Washington. These were career criminals. Many of them came in through the Biden open border disaster. They came in. They weren't there. They came in. They said, we want to live in Washington where they'll take good care of us, give us plenty of welfare. And we got them all out. We moved them back to their countries. Sometimes we'd put them in prison because they were so dangerous. We had one person who killed 4 people in a short period of time. Many of the people, 11,888, 50% of them in our country, they came from jails. Other countries opened their jails and let them into our country because Biden and his great border czar, the border czar who never once went to the border, never once called Border Patrol. But his great border, perhaps you've heard her, Kamala. Has anyone heard of Kamala? She was the border czar. That was like having nothing as a border czar. And they poured into our country and they made our country very, very unsafe. And the job that ICE and Border Patrol have done, they don't get the appreciation they deserve. They are great American patriots. They're incredible people. So we brought together 22 federal agencies, state and local police, and 1,500 members of the incredible National Guard to smash the grip of the violent criminals on this iconic American city. The city is incredible. People love it so much, but they're just fed up. They can't stay, and now they're staying. I had somebody backstage say, "Sir, I was ready to leave, and now we're staying." I said, "Don't worry, it's going to get much better. Just takes a little more time." Like our D.C. efforts, the Memphis Task Force has been led by our Director of U.S. Marshal Services, Gaddy Seralta, who is incredible. Where's Gaddy? Gaddy, you are unbelievable. And I want to thank you for the work. He did a job in Washington. So when I heard Memphis, I said, I want the same guy that did Washington. Because that went, you're going to tell us when you get up which was more difficult, all right? But members known all over the world as the home of Graceland. You know I'm going to see Graceland after this? I think, is that right? I love Elvis. I never met Elvis. Everyone said, did you? I met them all. I met Sinatra. I knew all of them. I never met Elvis. Sometimes I feel I should tell the little fibs that I knew him well. I love Elvis, but I never met him. But I'm going to go see Graceland after this, I think. I'm sure it's not going to be a very long stay, but I want to see that. But for years prior to our involvement, Memphis had become known for something else, being the murder capital of the USA. That's not a good title. It was averaging far more than one murder per day, with a crime rate higher than Colombia, Mexico City, or Baghdad. In the year, I shouldn't be saying this, but here's the good news. It's been fixed, all right? I hate to say this because it's so negative. It's so negative. In the year before I took office, Memphis saw more than 12,500 violent assaults, 429 rapes, and 7,600 burglaries and armed robberies. And I mean, it was getting worse. This catastrophe was a result of years of local politicians, judges, and prosecutors who sided with violent criminals over law-abiding citizens. Basically, liberals, or now they like to go with the word progressives. You don't hear liberal. They're liberal. I don't like progressive because it's a beautiful word. You know, they use progressive because that's the only thing they're good at, politics, I guess. You know, they're bad at policy because all these policies are bad, but they're great at politics, and they do stick together. They stick together, they're good at politics, but they're bad at policy because they can't sell open borders, they can't sell transgender for everyone, they can't sell men and women's sport, so they can be the greatest politicians in the world, and that's why I'm here instead of them, I guess. But just as we have in D.C., here in Memphis, we've achieved one of the largest, fastest declines in violent crime ever recorded. So that's something, right? Ever recorded. In fact, you're half a percentage point away from the record, so we'll catch them in the next month or two, all right? I think that's going to happen. But that includes a 60% drop in robberies, a 74% drop in carjacking, and motor vehicle thefts. We have always achieved numbers that are good. These numbers are right on line to be among the best that we've done, and wherever we do this, we have very similar results. We were in New Orleans, where the governor called us, as you know, and we went to New Orleans. They just had Mardi Gras. They said it's the first, it sounds terrible, but it's the first Mardi Gras we've ever had where there was no murder. Can you imagine? Doesn't sound too good, but, you know, we're talking about the facts. And they said we had the lowest crime that we've ever had on Mardi Gras, which is almost nothing. We went there about 4 months ago. We did a great job. So we've achieved a 70% reduction in murders from the peak in this place. In total, we've arrested 7,000 criminals, seized more than 1,100 illegal guns, taken more than 1,000 pounds of illicit narcotics, and rescued more than 150 missing children, making their parents beyond happy. So I'd like you to please join me in thanking, I tell you, every single law enforcement hero here today. We have a small number compared to what's doing the job, who helped make Memphis safe again. Memphis, just so you know, with all of the things we said, you have now developed a reputation as a city that's coming back stronger than any city in the country because of what's happened with crime and because your political leaders had the courage to do what they did. So I'd like you to also say a special welcome and hello to the Tennessee National Guard, the Memphis Police Department, ICE, CBP, the ATF, DEA, Homeland Security Investigations, the U.S. Marshals, the Tennessee Highway Patrol, and all of law enforcement. Everybody got together and they said, we're going to make Memphis great again. And they really did. It's so good. But, you know, I talk about how good it is. We're at 75%. Some people say 80, 81%. That still leaves 20%. You're going to be down in another 2 months, 3 months, I think, Addie. We're going to be down to almost no crime. You're going to be an almost crime-free city. You're going to be so proud of it. People are going to stay. They're going to actually come back because you have everything going, but you have that one horrible cloud over your head. And essentially, people know it's happening, but essentially in another 2 months, you're not going to have anything. You're going to have a virtually crime-free city. So today I'm pleased to announce that the Secretary of War, used to be the Secretary of Defense, we made a minor change. We like the sound of it better. That the Secretary of War has just signed a directive to ensure that all National Guard members serving on this task force, as well as in D.C., New Orleans, and our border security missions, will receive the same benefits as active duty troops because you deserve it. That's not bad. That's not bad. So before we leave, I want to thank Attorney General Pam Bondi, Secretary of War Pete Hegseth. These are great people. Chief of the National Guard Bureau General Stephen Nordhaus, FBI Director Kash Patel, wonderful guy, actually. You got to get to know him. Once you get to know him, he's a wonderful guy. I've known him too long, right? He's a good guy. DEA Administrator Terry Cole, what a job he's done. Acting Director of ICE, where's Terry? Good job, Terry. What a job. In Washington, too. Acting Director of ICE, Todd Lyons. Todd, great. Thank you, Todd. Good job. Head of the ATF, Rob Cicada. Rob. Thank you, Rob. Head of the Tennessee Highway Patrol, Colonel Matt Perry. Thanks, Matt. And head of the Tennessee National Guard, Major General Warner Ross. How are you? You guys look central casting. These are central casting people. What did you need us for? You didn't need us. Anyway, they had to let you do your job, right? They're letting you do your job now. Thanks as well to Tennessee Governor Bill Lee for the outstanding job. Thank you very much, Bill. We appreciated your call. Bill called me up. He said, we need a little help in Memphis, sir. Would you get over here, please? He said, I have no pride. We just want this thing straightened out, right? So thank you very much. I'm glad it worked out. Oh, you haven't seen, what do you see? In 90 days from now, you're going to see numbers that blow these off. You're down 70, 75%. You're going to see numbers that you're going to be very proud of. Senators Bill Haggerty and Marsha Blackburn. Great people. Great people. You have some real warriors, too, as your congressmen and women. David Kustoff, Andy Ogles, Diana Harshbarger, John Rose, Matt Van Epps, and Chuck Fleischman. Will you all stand up? Warriors all. Everyone. Great, great people. You don't get better. It's not the easiest job, is it? Huh? Speaker of the, you know what I like about them? They're not 3 o'clock in the morning. Sir, I get a call from Mike Johnson, Speaker. Sir, we have a problem. What time is it, Mike? 3 o'clock, sir, morning. We voted 9. We need, it's always the same, you know, it's like 8 or 9. Sir, could you call them for us and see if you can get their vote? 3 o'clock. Call them up. Hey, Jim, how you doing? Hello, sir. I'm not there. I'm not there. Well, you got to get there. 9 o'clock, you got to vote. Sir, could I have a little breakfast so we could discuss this bill? You know, like a perfect bill, like, you know, voter ID or something. You know, the bill didn't have to be too great to do it. He said, could we have maybe a little breakfast at the White House, sir? So, because I can get there, but I'm just not there. Come on over for breakfast, Bill. You know? I got a lot of them, too. I have about 9 of them. But these are the people we love. These are the people we love. So I want to thank you all. Speaker of the Tennessee House of Representatives, and I hear this guy, I hear he's fantastic. Cameron Sexton, where is he? I have heard such good things about you. And you're working on a very specific bill right now. I know all about you. That's great. Let me know when it's finished, you know. You got to send me a copy, okay? That's great. Thank you, Cameron. You're doing a great job. Shelby County Sheriff Floyd Bonner. Thank you, Floyd. National President of the Fraternal Order of Police. Oh, that's a big one. He gave me his endorsement. Patrick Yost, where's Patrick? He gave me his endorsement. I said, well, what's your endorsement worth? How many members? He said, sir, we have 490,000 members. I said, that's a good endorsement. Patrick, do you think anybody outside of, within law enforcement, did anybody vote for Kamala that you know of? Don't say it. You're going to get yourself in trouble. Don't say it. But thank you, Pat. That's great. We had an unbelievable. I do believe we got 98, 99% with law enforcement, and why not? President of the National Sheriff's Association, Chris West. Chris, thank you very much. Thank you, Chris. Stand up, Chris. Thank you. Well, why are you so far back there, Chris? You deserve to be in the front row. National President of the Federal Law Enforcement Officers Association, Matt Silverman. Great guy, too. All great guys, all guys we know. All guys, thank you, Matt. They're all guys that supported me, Pam, every one of them. For years, our leaders allowed entire cities in America to be destroyed by crime, drugs, and gang violence. Tolerating this violence was always a choice. 19 of the 20 most dangerous cities in America are run by Democrats. I'm surprised. I thought it was 20 of 20. I don't know why it's 19. I don't believe it. It's like, I heard it was 25 out of 25. Well, I'll find out about it because I don't believe it's right. Whoever wrote that statistic is wrong. But under the Trump administration, we believe that no city or neighborhood should be left behind. In Memphis, the crime became so horrible that residents were made prisoners of violence in their own community, in their own home. But with the help of the great people right here at this table and right here, it's a whole different story right now. It's changing fast, and it'll be record-setting in a very short period of time, and I'll be here to celebrate it with you. You know, it's a very special state to me. I won this state, Bill, by numbers that nobody's ever won it before. We have the all-time record for votes, so I happen to like the state. I love Tennessee. Maybe someday I'll move to Tennessee. I might have to move there. No, I love it. You never know what that is. You know, you just have a relationship with the state. It's a lot safer than relationships with other things, I can tell you as a politician. But I especially want to thank Speaker Sexton, who's working with the task force to pass model bills that will be toughen crime, to deliver permanent safety to the people of Memphis. And really, I don't know if you know, but they're looking at this all over the country, what you're doing. They're studying it. That's why I know your name so well. And all over the country, they're studying it. And so I hope you do a great job, as simple as you can and as complex in the sense of we want to be tough. We want to be strong on crime because that's the thing. We want to have heart. We want to have fairness, but we have to be tough because some of these people are bad people that should have never been allowed to be here. Since I took office, we have successfully arrested or removed from the country over 500,000 hard-line criminals. And under our leadership last year, the murder rate nationwide saw the single largest decline ever recorded to the lowest level in 125 years. That's something. That's something. And this is despite the fact that they allowed 25 million people into our country. Many of those people should never have been allowed into our country. So now I'd like to ask Director Gaddy Seralta, who's really a special guy, and I've lived with him because of Washington, D.C. I saw what he did, but to say a few words. And congratulations for what you've done everywhere, but today we're only interested in one place, Memphis, Tennessee. Thank you very much, Gaddy.